Me accidentally slipping off my balcony, that's an ordeal. An ordeal is a horrific experience. This kind of just sounds like inconvenience. Alright, what's going on, y'all? So there was this video that was on TikTok that I wanted to review because I saw the headline and I almost didn't believe what I was seeing and I almost didn't believe what I was reading, and then of course I found a video. Here it is.
My ordeal at Sea-Tac airport will shock you. This experience I'm about to share with you is yet another example of why employee sensitivity training, a demand outlined in the plus-size travel petition.
First off, y'all have to stop using that word so loosely. Ordeal? My ordeal at Sea-Tac? Not everything is an ordeal. Let's just clear that one up. A great white jumping into my boat in the middle of the ocean? Yeah, that's an ordeal. My leg getting caught in the elevator? That's an ordeal. Me accidentally slipping off my balcony? That's an ordeal. An ordeal is a horrific experience. This kind of just sounds like inconvenience.
Petition is desperately needed. I'm a plus-size wheelchair user, and on a recent flight to the Sea-Tac airport, I requested wheelchair assistance, as I always do. When it came time for me to deplane, I saw the employee who would be assisting me with my wheelchair waiting for me in the entry of the jet bridge. As I approached her and she realized she'd be assisting me and not one of the smaller passengers, she started to walk away with the wheelchair while making comments about my size. Even when I told her I really needed the chair and needed her to let me sit down in it, she blatantly ignored me and kept walking. I was then forced to walk up one of the longest jet bridges I've encountered, and she didn't stop. By the time she let me reach the wheelchair and sit down, my lips were white. My oxygen levels had dropped and I almost fainted. This was my first time flying without oxygen. This woman just assumed I could walk and would rather me do that, instead of her having to push someone my size up the jet bridge. All the other attendants wheeled their passengers up the jet bridge, but my needs were disregarded. This is discrimination. Nobody should be treated this way. Share your story at change.org plus-size travel. Ordeal at Sea.
Okay, there are a few things that I wanted to address. So my ordeal at Sea-Tac airport will shock you. This experience I'm about to share with you is an example of sensitivity training, a demand outlined in the plus-size travel petition. Alright, so this is the plus-size travel petition. 39,000 signatures so far. The next goal is 50,000. That's what they're looking for.
April 2nd, 2023.
Let's start here.
Our travel should be comfortable and accessible for everyone, regardless of size. As plus-size travelers, my partner and I have unfortunately experienced discrimination and discomfort while flying. During a flight from Pasco to Denver, my fiancé was subjected to hateful comments, disapproving looks, and even refusal to sit next to them, amounting to discrimination. Similarly, on another flight, I was forced to occupy only one seat with immovable armrests that caused me pain and bruises. Being forced to occupy only one seat can result in pain and vulnerability to poor treatment from fellow passengers, including hateful comments, disapproving looks, and even refusal to sit next to them. This mistreatment of plus-size passengers is unacceptable, and it highlights the urgent need for better policies that protect the dignity and rights of all passengers, regardless of size. Unfortunately, plus-size passengers often experience discomfort and discrimination when flying. The lack of a uniform customer-of-size airline policy is unacceptable and must be addressed. The FAA should mandate that all airlines have a comprehensive customer-of-size policy that prioritizes the comfort and well-being of all passengers. This policy must have clear...
Okay, that's one I want to tackle.
First, I don't think tall people should have to pay extra for seats that accommodate them either. There's a difference between paying for extra legroom solely for comfort and needing it to be safe and fly with dignity. Why is it...
I get the feeling that might be her boyfriend that she's talking about. It might not be, but I think it is.
That when average-sized people bring up airplane seats being too small, it's valid. But when plus-size people bring it up, they're the villain. Explain that.
God, I can't do this video. I actually can't do this video. One of the reasons why it is heavily vocalized that airline seats are more uncomfortable, and it's taken more as a valid argument on average, is because of your average size person. I think people misconstrue the purpose of an airline. The purpose of an airline is not to get you from point A to point B. That's the purpose of the plane, to get you to point A to point B. The purpose of the pilot is to get you safely from point A to point B. The pilot isn't the one informing you. The pilot tells you who's going to inform you as to how you get there. The plane just takes you there. But the purpose of the business itself, Sea-Tac, Sea-Tac is not there to fly you from point A to point B. They are there for one reason: money. There is money in flying. There is money in selling tickets. There is money in taking you from the States all the way over to Dubai. There is money in those things. So they want you to buy tickets with them. And in you buying tickets with them, they make more money. They sell more tickets. They sell more seats. Done. With that said, though, with all of that said, the average person that they are selling these tickets to is unfortunately not obese. They are not an overweight individual. They have to go by averages. So how large is the average person? How large is the average flyer? How large is the average person that is a flyer that will buy a ticket? And how do we get them to buy a ticket with us? You have to figure all of those things out. So in you figuring out all of those things, when you have the argument from the average size person saying that the seats are too small, it's because the seats are too narrow and the seats are not far enough for leg room. So when the average person says this, we're not talking about the abnormal. So if someone flies and that person is 8'9" and they say, hey, the seats out here are really uncomfortable, no one is actually going to take that person serious. But when you have someone that is maybe like the average height, what's the average height for men and women? What is it, like 5'9" for men, 5'10" for men, 5'7", I believe, for women, 5'6", 5'7" for women on average. So if that's the averages and they're saying that the seats are too uncomfortable, when you have someone that is outside of that average stating that the seats are uncomfortable, that person that's outside of that average isn't taken into consideration until the average changes. You see, if the average flyer and the average person were to weigh 300, 400, 500 pounds, if that was the average human being, then the airlines would have to adjust their seats. Right? That's how that works. That is literally how the airlines function. They would have to adjust their seats to what the masses need. Whatever the masses require, that is what they adjust their seating towards so that they can fill out the most amount of seats. Airlines are there to sell seats. They're there to sell the most amount of seats, and they want to fill up their plane and take you to wherever it is that you need to go. Now, if everyone on that plane was 7'1", and all of a sudden there was a monstrous growth spurt, everyone minus maybe a couple thousand people was 7'1" and above, guess what the airlines would do? Their seats would go from this long or this much in length to this much in length to accommodate the majority of people that are then potentially going to fly. And everyone would have to do that, because if you're that one airline that can accommodate the majority of people, everyone else has to follow suit, or else you're just going to be accommodating a niche group. So when it comes down to her now, Jaylin, you are not the average sized person. And I hope I'm not being mean by saying that. You're not the average sized person. So they can't just make adjustments to accommodate just you. You're not always going to fly with Sea-Tac. Weren't you flying with someone else not that long ago that you said made accommodations for you? So if that one airline already made accommodations in their rulings to say that they will allow you guys to have an extra seat, just bouncing from airline to airline, trying to get them all to now proverbially bend the knee, believe it or not, I'll try to find the evidence on this, but believe it or not, business profit margins are not that large. Yes, you'll see billions and billions here and billions there and billions here and billions there with the amount of money that you have to pay back in to shareholders, to employees, to health benefits, and to other benefits towards employees and maintenance and everything. Once you really get down to it, it's really not all that much. It's still a good amount. Don't get it twisted. It really is still a good amount, but it really isn't all that much. So no one's feeling sorry for these guys and saying boo-hoo for them. You know, they have it so hard. No, they really don't. I'm not saying they do. But they are simply there to make money, and they will do whatever they need to do to make money, and they will accommodate the masses of people based on the average person. Anyone outside of that average, like we're all, if everyone is here, and if we're talking height and you go here, you know, all of a sudden your height is right here, they might not be able to accommodate you. If you show up and you're 8'4", they might not be able to accommodate you. They might actually just tell you, hey, if you want to fly with us today, you might have to get a seat in first class. But if you're here, if the average person is right here, average weight, and then you fall outside of that spectrum on the larger size, they also might not have a very easy time in accommodating you. They might tell you you need to buy an extra seat, or we just can't do anything with you. When it comes down to that other employee that refused to push, I gotta be honest with you, I don't blame the employee one bit. If there's a slight incline on that ramp, now they're going against gravity. So now they have your force pushing them as well as the force of gravity. And if the ramp slopes slightly down, now they have to make sure for dear life that they can hold you. And was this did she say if this was a man or a woman? Well, regardless, if they drop you, let's just say they accidentally drop you, you're wheelchair bound, they drop you. Is that a lawsuit? On top of that, you said that you saw other people that were being tended to. Here's my question. Were those other people the same size as you were? Were those other people smaller? Were they larger? All you really said was that you saw other people getting the same assistance that you were looking for. Were they larger than you? Were they smaller than you? Were they the same size? Is this something personal with you? Did you make it known to this person?
People should have to pay extra for seats that accommodate them either. There's a difference between paying for extra legroom solely for comfort and needing it to be safe and fly with dignity. Why is it that when average size people bring up airplane seats being too small, it's...
I'm 6'4", 220 pounds. My issue with airlines is, of course, the legroom. I never have enough legroom. Can't do it. Never have enough legroom. I unfortunately have to, well, actually not unfortunately. I upgrade. Why? It's needed.
It's valid. But when plus-size people bring it up, they're the villain. Explain that.
No, it's not that you're the villain, actually. It's not that anyone's making you the villain. Here's the issue. I can't change my height. I hope you understand that. As I said earlier, I'm 6'4". There's nothing I could do about my height. I can't do anything about my height. And only if the argument is between myself and him, if the argument is between myself and him, one of us can do something about our issue. I'll let you guys determine. Now remember what was being stated. The The FAA should mandate that all airlines have a comprehensive customer of size policy that prioritizes the comfort and well-being of all passengers. This change.org petition says clear communication. Airlines must create a set of policy standards and procedures for customers of size and communicate them in a clear, accessible, and easy to understand way. I think it's kind of the same for everyone else. You buy your ticket, you show up 2-3 hours beforehand, you go to security, you get harassed, you go to the duty free, you buy your stuff, you lose your stuff, you get into an argument with someone, you go to the airline, you sit down, you watch your plane come, you watch them delay, you get in line, you walk through the line, you get seated, you can't fit your carry-on into that stupid little rack that they have on the top. Finally, it goes in, you sit down into your uncomfortable seat, you get to your destination, and then you get to your resort, you get on a taxi, takes you to your resort, it takes you to your location, they give you a drink, you drink, and then you enjoy. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of this. Maybe one day I'll go through all of this and kind of just break it all down. But for right now, I think enough has been said. That main video was what I wanted to actually watch. The one in which the actual complaint was being made.
My ordeal at Sea-Tac Airport will shock you. This experience I'm about to share with you is yet another example of why employee sensitivity training, a demand outlined in the plus-size travel petition, is desperately needed. I'm a plus-size wheelchair user, and on a recent flight to the Sea-Tac airport, I requested wheelchair assistance as I...
I'm a little bit puzzled. Do they have any policies as to where they can refuse? Can they refuse to do the job? Like, if what happened, because I know this directly from work, actually. If an employee tells me that they feel unsafe at work, right? If they tell me that they feel unsafe doing a task, if an employee ever tells me that they no longer, that they feel like if their health or their safety is actually being compromised, you cannot force that employee. So, can an employee refuse to do this on the basis of safety? I'm not poking fun. It's just, I'm being 100% serious. This is a serious question. Yeah, can an employee say, okay, I don't feel safe doing this, mainly because maybe they're not strong enough, maybe they don't feel safe pushing the wheelchair either forward or pulling it backwards. I know that there's wheelchair accommodations that are made for people that have wheelchairs. Normally they'll let them go on the plane first, or they'll let them go, I think they will actually let them go on the plane first, just to kind of ease everyone off to the side and let this person take their time without, getting everyone else getting in their way. But in this instance, though, what happens when it may require more than either one or two people to do the task in and of itself? And on top of that, what happens if it's just the one person and they actually don't feel that they're up to task to do it? Then what?
As I always do. When it came time for me to deplane, I saw the employee who would be assisting me with my wheelchair waiting for me in the entry of the jet bridge.
Don't forget to drop a like. Oh boy, damn. And I'll see you guys again for the next one. Mercy. Be easy, y'all.